So next up we have Joy Silver.
Thank you. I'm Joy Silver. I'm the president of Rainbow Vision, and I have 6 points, and I hope I can get it in before my time is called. The Rainbow Vision is community for the second 50 years, and that's what we call our community now, because everything that's happened before the age of 50 has been there, done that, now what? And that's what happens just about the age of 50. And that whole time period of decision and actually having the power to make a decision about how you want to spend your time, if you want to start a new career, if you want to stop working at the old ones, many changes have taken place. You probably have more relationships, better economic stability, or at least have decided what you want to do with your time and how you want to see the second half of your life living. And so this empowerment moment is critical to creating community. And that's kind of the key factor here. Back in the 60s, in the late 60s, this concept in Rainbow Vision, what we are is the fruition or the manifestation, as it were, of the vision that we began when gay power was happening and civil rights took a major move out. And up until that point, we were kind of hiding anything we had done in the past and sort of protecting our present so nobody should find out who we were and kind of trying to keep ourselves safe. But in that moment, as a people, we stepped out and we said, wow, we might have a future. And so our tagline for Rainbow Vision in its early stage was envisioning our future ourselves. And so that people say, well, what a great idea. Like I'm the first person who had the idea, right? I mean, it's the energy of like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where everybody kind of thinks it up, and there it is. I mean, and that's really what Rainbow Vision is the culmination of. So we did, we are GLBT owned and operated, which is a really, that's a change. Coming up with the demographics to make this happen when people are still in the closet. How do we find each other on paper to make us financeable? This was an amazing song and dance routine. Thank God I was in the music business for so long because this is a song I learned how to sing to the financiers. I mean, it's incredible. And anybody who's done any business with banks knows that you're really pulling them forward all the time, and to become credible and financeable is just, it takes a lot of work and a lot of time. And that's why Rainbow Vision is a mission-driven company. It's not like, oh, here's a population, the market that we can penetrate and, exploit our product. It doesn't work like that. It was mission-driven, and if you weren't mission-driven, then you couldn't have lasted to make it happen. Anybody who goes first or has to sing that song first has a hard, has an audience that has to get used to the idea and become believable too. So we did a lot of studies. We surveyed over 20,000 people in our history. Of that 20,000, we got a 21% response, which is very high. And so we learned a couple things by those folks, by those studies. And then we did an interesting study about in a small town versus a major metropolitan area. And I want to talk about that because in major metropolitan areas, places that no one else wanted to live is where we ended up. And in those small towns, those resort towns now, those would just happen to be remote areas that nobody wanted to go to. And now they're resort towns. But they're always at the end, like Provincetown is at the end of the world, or Fire Island, the very last community was ours. That's how it worked out. So all those kind of areas are now resorts, and these great neighborhoods in these cities are like major metropolitan, fabulous, wonderful, and now who can afford it? We can't even. But anyway, and then our third piece to this is that we have the Emerald City Foundation. Because in the creation of Rainbow Vision, we didn't want to do the Jekyll Hyde, other side of the railroad tracks kind of community, and so we created a nonprofit foundation to help seniors, or we don't call them seniors now, by the way, because nobody's ever getting old. but anybody, people over 50 who needed financial assistance, so that we could all have access to really nice places to live. And to prove how nice they are, you're certainly welcome to come and take a flyer and see what a gay sensibility community might look like, at least the way this one looks in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we're also building in Palm Springs, California, and that'll be our second property. And we're looking at the Bay Area, and we're in a study in Vancouver, and we're looking up to at least 21 properties. And we're going green incrementally because guess what? Although cities say they want to do that, they kind of make it impossible when you go to city council, but we won't go there. We're talking about that right now. Okay, so this idea of intentional community, you know, I mean, the United States is founded on this. I mean, if you think that the Puritans come over here, of course they have to throw everybody else out that lives there, but in any case, it was, you know, they came over and they created an intentional community about shared values and, you know, the Shakers, and I mean, this kind of concept of intentional community where you choose people that are sharing a culture. This is not a new idea. Why it's new when GLBT people talk about it, I don't know. Nobody says let's dismantle Chinatown or the Jews don't need a homeland. Nobody thinks about that for some reason, you know, but we're a minority and we need a homeland, and nobody's saying you can't live in other places, but it's nice to know that, you know, there's a place for us that we will be, have the opportunity, and I think this is the opportune thing, to be in the majority. Where the minority has a chance to be in the majority. You know, we don't have our own country. We're just asking for a little neighborhood. I don't think that's such a big deal. But it seems to be a damn big deal. Okay? I'm not sure why that is. Okay. So let's move on to these visions of the utopia community, because here we get in trouble with each other. And that is, somewhere over the rainbow, you know, we're going to have this fabulous, wonderful place, and we won't feel alone anymore or isolated. But here's the catch. And when we go there, people will think and agree with everything that I think and agree with, and we'll all get along really fine, and we'll just think the way I do. Okay, it sounds silly, but it is the way people think. And I can tell you that because once I built it, now I'm operating this community, and I will tell you that that's really underneath it all. People are surprised to find that there's actually differences of opinion. Because, hey, aren't we all GLBT? And some of us, by the way, are straight there in this community, and why would straight people live here? And that's a whole other subject. However, we do think differently about things. And right now I'm involved in a focus group where I'm actually testing 22 words for impressions. That's kind of interesting. You know, gay-friendly, what comes to your mind? Straight-friendly, what comes to your mind? Just kind of how do we feel about things? And the biggest surprise at the end of the focus group I just finished last week was, wow, we think differently about things. And you're the one who has to talk about it, ha, 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 they say to me, right? Thanks, that's my job. So going into the skills for living in a community, we have to think about this. Do we have any skills to live in a community? Probably not. Probably not, because we're baby boomers. And the point was to sing your own song, be different than everybody else, you know, have these ideas and be independent and just don't follow the crowd. And we're still doing some of that. And so how do we gain these skills? God, 3 minutes, I'm only like for number 4. Okay, the baby boomers are a bit different because the whole generations that went through the end of World War II or the Depression, the whole country was involved in survival together. And the baby boomers were just, you know, finding new ideas and finding people who thought similarly. So it's a different set of skills about living in community.